It's time once again to go racing.
The pressure is really on now.
And it's pole position.
And it's pedal to the metal. Go, go, go!
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along once again to PSGL Season 29. This is round 3 of the PlayStation F2 tier, and we are here at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium for the Belgian Grand Prix. We can't get enough of Spa this weekend. The real F1 cars race there this weekend. Well, they tried to race this weekend, but they couldn't due to the rain. So let's hope we get some more action than yesterday. Joining me in the commentary box, as per usual, is Owen Wyatt. How are you doing?
Hello, Jess. Hello, viewers. Yes, we will get a race here today. I guarantee it, unless something catastrophic goes wrong, we are going to get a race here today. And you know what? The first 2 races this season have been so good as well. I'm very much looking forward to see how the third one goes, because it's getting quite good already, this championship fight.
Yeah, it is. We're seeing Kazizel took the championship lead after his 2 podiums during the season as well. And there's one driver that is notably missing from the proceedings tonight. Lars is no longer in F2. He's been promoted to F1 reserve because he couldn't do 7 p.m. and he's fast to be in F1 anyway. So he got promoted. So he is being replaced by Brock in the Mercedes, who's came from reserve to full-time. And we've also got Kareem not here tonight, but filling in for Kareem, we've got Netsky. So those are the 2 people that you'll see differently tonight. First used in Formula 1 in the first championship race back in 1950, which was the same calendar as Silverstone, and it's such an iconic track as well. Last time we were here, season 28, so it was in the calendar almost every season in this game cycle. It's just such a well-known track as well. Suko, who was the highest F2 driver from the ones who raced last season, he finished 3rd, and that started his championship campaign back then. So we'll be interested to see who comes out on top tonight, and it could be the start for someone else's championship campaign.
Absolutely. I think one driver you're going to have to keep your eye on tonight. He was so unlucky not to win last week, and it's Baccara in the Alfa Romeo, because if you remember last week, he took the lead on the start. I think he went from 3rd to 1st and was dominating the race, frankly, even when the rain came down. But there was a late race safety car, and he was left with a choice: pit for new wets or pit for new inters, and he went for the wets, and it was at that exact moment that the rain started to slow down, and it cost him a first dominant victory of the season. So he comes here to Spa looking to get a little bit of a vengeance for that one, and perhaps he could be the one to watch today.
Yeah, he is as well. He looked quite dominant before the strategy undid himself there. And to be honest, I think none of us would have known what was the right strategy anyway. So you had to have a bit of luck. And Lars had a bit of luck there because he got unlucky for a little bit. But the pace was just there for him on those wet conditions that no one else can beat him. But yeah, watch out for Baraka today as well. And for the Alfa Romeo's Riss as well, who climbed his way up as well. And there's also some other drivers who finished quite well last week. Fabi finished P2. He is kind of the king of the wet conditions in this tier anyway, so not really that surprised to see him there. Championship standings look like this. Kazizel on 20 points with Bouters in 2nd. Suko is in 3rd with Lars now out of this tier with 13 points. Then we got Cornet on 12, Fabi on 12, Gil on 8, Hadler on 6. Dezo on 5, as well as Benny, Louis and CC Brain. Baraka on 4, and then Simo, Daniel, Ashbest, Recon, Reza, Kareem and Valentine yet to score. And speaking of Daniel, it's his first race here at PSGL F2 after missing the first couple of races. So good to have him here. And we don't know what his pace is like originally. So it will be interesting to see where he stacks up with the rest of the grid. But Valentin, the one who wasn't here in Bahrain, he got pole. So will we continue the trend with someone who has their first race here get pole? But we will find out very soon. There's a lot of people, though, that have just started their laps around this track.
Yes, I think Hadler is the first one out there. The car in front of him will be his teammate. And Hadler had an alright race last time out, didn't he? Because he had some good pace, was a bit further back than he wanted to be in qualifying. I think he ended up about 11 for 12, but made his way up to around 4th position by the time the safety car come out. And so he showed he had a lot of pace as well. It's just drivers like him, drivers like Baraka, you got to look at them. And obviously consistent with his consistency for championships. But we'll see how these laps go first, because Hadler is coming up. He'll pass his teammate in the last corner. No slipstream being done there, of course, that is banned in this league. And as Hadler comes out in the final corner, he is going to be the pace setter here in Spa. The lap was valid and it is a 1 minute 40.6.
Good benchmark time so far. I think we got more drivers about to finish their laps as well. We got Ash Best, who's just finished his lap. I think we got a Williams driver that's just set the pace already with Gil 140.6. I think that's the benchmark time so far, because Ash Best hasn't set a representative lap time yet. But we'll follow Izzo, who I believe is coming towards the line now on the final few corners. Let's see what he could do. The Williams car actually got a good qualifying in real life. Can he get it in this race? 5th place for now for him, 141.7. And Suko, the runner-up from last season, he's faster with a 140.2. That's sensational already, but the game is a lot faster at the moment compared to last game, and there hasn't been a performance patch yet, so it may be about 2 seconds slower in October time, but at the moment we're already seeing times faster than last season. Maybe 139 is possible, but highly unlikely. But I think 140s is definitely possible, as Suka has proven.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how everyone stacks up. Of course, we've seen so many times how close grids can be in qualifying sessions, and it's weird, you wouldn't think it around here, but I believe the closest grid I ever saw in a PSGL race was here in one of the preseason races a few years back. So these small gaps you're already seeing. For example, the likes of 3rd down to 6th there, and you know, more cars being stuck in the middle with Fabi in there. You know, those types of gaps, you'll see those at the front as well. And pole position again today, I reckon, will be decided by hundreds, if not thousands. So all these laps will kind of got to absolutely not invalidate them. You've seen a few, because Izzle invalidated one. He's the only one so far, but you've got to make sure you all get the laps done. Longer in and out laps as well, so less mistakes can be made. It's just worth pointing out, it's not exactly the easiest session, this one, and luckily you can overtake around here, but still, you want to be near the front. Brock sets at times a bit off the pace, but certainly the top 12 within 7/10 at the moment. Difficult window to get into. A couple more still out there. Risa out there, and Valentin, the pole man last week. Let's see if he can repeat that performance here in Spa. In his Haas, around the final corner he goes. And look to timing. Will he cross the line first? No, he'll be 11th instead. And then Risa, I think, is the last one he'll be finishing his first run, unless because Izzle went for a second try, which he might have actually done, actually. So we'll see if Risa finishes his lap now in his Alfa Romeo. His teammate's up in P2. Can he join him up near the front of the grid? No, he's P12, and because Izzle will pit, actually. So that's the first set of runs finished already. And yeah, Suko is the pace setter at the moment.
With Baraka, who was quite dominant until the rain came, in P2 with a 140.3. Gap separated by a tenth almost between Suko and Baraka, and Fabi as well. So I think the main protagonist is there as well. We got Luca here tonight as well, so great to see him back after a few races off. And we got Recon, who's had some very bad luck up there in the top 10 right now. He's getting some good luck at the moment. So last week, unfortunately, he DNF'd again, had a few spins. I see he's going to get more points this season. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, as does some of the other drivers that were unlucky as well, that failed to score points, because points are scored from first down to 10th, 16, 12, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. And then the fastest lap point, if you're inside the top 10, you don't get it outside the top 10. but there could be people like last week that can steal the fastest lap point from you as well. So Simo and Netski are on their out laps now, and so is Luca, Gill and Haller. Everyone else just stationary in the pits for now, just waiting for the track time. But you don't have long to go really, because it's one of the longest laps on the calendar, I would say, as well as Singapore and Baku. And if you don't go out too soon, then you're not going to get a good final run in, and you're probably not going to be the last to set a lap, which will be a bit of a shame. So I'm guessing a few people, if I were them, to go out of the pits now and get a second lap in.
Yeah, a few more leaving now. I think that might be a consequence of people who probably took a little longer on their first runs, and that's just a catching up. You certainly wouldn't get 4 runs done here. You see that done sometimes at other tracks, but yeah, you're definitely going to be sat on 3 this time. But yeah, a few people are still coming out of the pits. Most of them now on out laps. I do think Cadler will be the first one to start another lap, perhaps. If not Ash Best, it might actually be Ash Best. He's coming through the first corner now, and Simo's heading towards Eau Rouge. I think he might actually be the first, so we'll follow the Red Bull driver as he heads up the hill. Easily flat at the moment, although you do want to be careful of the bump halfway up the hill. It can catch you out really on lap 1, not as much on a qualifying lap. But it is worth pointing that could be a problem zone at the start of the race as Simo gets in the first sector, 29.8. He hasn't got a benchmark for himself to beat, so we won't know how representative this is really until he crosses the line. Because the map can turn around and say it's purple, but until he actually finishes the lap, we won't know just how good it is. But we'll see. He's one of 4 drivers, including himself, because there's a little Netski and Corn who hasn't got a lap on the board yet. So he'll want to get up there, but there's a little bit of traffic in front of him. And they all tend to back up at the bus stop chicane at the end of the lap. And you can see there's, I think, 5 of them who are all relatively close. He might be able to nick a section off 1 or 2 of them, but he will have to be careful. That's why you'll see yellow flags in the 3rd sector quite often. It's because of people backing up. But Simo through the middle sector, again, the map says purple is a 12.8. Who knows if that's any good at the moment. I'm sure Simo could probably try and nick a little bit of a toe. Definitely same for Ash Best as he heads through the final sector as well. He is just passing Hadler. But as Simo comes up to the bus stop chicane, you'll see in front there's a few cars just slowing down. His teammate one of them, and that will be his lap ruined. And that's what I was talking about. You can just get blocked by people stopping at the bus stop to prepare their laps. Ash Best, I don't think, got involved in any of that, and he will cross the line to go P8. But that is the perils of qualifying here in Spa, and I have a feeling they might just get away without an investigation since they're teammates. But if it was any other car, that would have been straight to the stewards.
And since drivers have got multiple laps to do so, if it was on their flyer lap, I'm almost certain, for their final laps, I'm almost certain that they would have been investigated anyway, because there was no way he could have improved after that. But at least Simo has got a time on the board. It's better around here to get a time on the board than not really, because there could be some people that could crash out around here, which is so easy to do. There's some moments on the track which is so much harder than last year's game. I mean, there's certain corners I absolutely hate. I used to love on the last year's game, but this year's game, absolutely awful. Kazizel, championship leader at the moment, hasn't won a race yet, who has done that last season and won the championship. Ballina, also known as Xander, so I wonder if we'll see the same here. He's got to win a race to stand a chance, really, but he's in 19th, not set a benchmark time. He's in 3rd, though, so that's pretty good for the Ferrari driver. I think we got Cornet as well on the lap. He comes across the line and he sets the benchmark time right now, 140.2. So I think 140.2 could be pole, but we could see a 140.1 for 140.0. Put your prediction in the chat. And I think Suku's still in P2. So the time that he set early on in the session is still good enough for the top 3 for the Alpine driver. So that's very good for him. Baraka comes across the line now. Could he beat the top 2? Yes, he can. 140.0. 139s, I think, are imminent now with the track evolving as it is.
Yeah, definitely we're getting close to it, but that's quite a big gap for Baraka to have already. I wonder if people are just saving stuff for their final runs as Valtters moves up to P6, because that's a big statement being made by the Alfa Romeo driver. Like I said, he would have a little bit of a vengeance after last week. He did get unlucky, and perhaps he can regain the form and, like I say, emerge as a proper championship contender. They'll all be aware of him after last week for sure. But yeah, if he can keep that sort of gap to the rest of the grid, that will be quite a statement. As I think Brock is now going to come around the last corner. He is slowest of the representative time set so far. He will move up though now into 15th place. And anybody else on laps, are they all heading into the pit lane now? Reese is on a lap. He's 4 tenths up at the moment. Could put him up into the top 10. He's currently 16th. And as he comes around the final corner, don't think he'll get anywhere near his teammates' time, but it is up into 9th place. Valentine is invalidated. I don't think the time would have troubled the top 10 anyway. But still worth saying, he's only going to have one more try to break in there. The pole sitter from last week. And I noticed the line he's taking through turn 1 there where he goes way off on the exit of the source. You don't get invalidated for that, and it is a viable line to take. I'd be surprised if it's faster though, but well, he's tried it. I'm sure he's just doing that for in-lap purposes though, because he's not using any ERS. But it's worth pointing out. Saw it on Twitter, and it is something that you can do. So I'd maybe look out for that at some point, but I don't imagine it'll be faster, as everyone I believe now is just on in-laps. Alright, laps in Simo's case, as he comes out, he will be, I'd imagine, the first one to do his last run.
So he's going to have the worst track conditions in terms of grip then, but we've seen in other leagues and in obviously real life, sometimes that's not too bad, because in real life, if someone bins it when you're doing your run, it sometimes calls a red flag, and when you're in the middle of a run and there's yellow flag, sometimes you have to slow down. It could put you off. So Simo may have done a very brave thing there down in 20th place at the moment. Hopefully no one would hold him up this time in the bus stop chicane. We also got Ash Best, Hadler and Gill on our lap as well. They want to get in the early pace. They don't want to get held up with the traffic, because obviously it's a long lap. I think it's going to be a long out lap as well, around the 2-minute mark. So if you're not out within that 2-minute mark, just say goodbye to your lap really. So ideally you need to be going out round about now. Lucas on his out lap as well. So Simo would be the only representative lap time, I think, for him at this stage, because obviously he got blocked by his teammates. So we won't know what the delta time for Simo is, because obviously I think mainly sector 1 and 2 should be fine, but sector 3 we won't have a true indication until we see the sector 3 times from everybody else. And we got Suko, who's also on a out lap as well, and he's got, I think, one of the AlphaTauri for company as well. So everyone is just about to do their final laps. We're getting into the nitty gritty of qualifying and almost in the 139s already, and the top 17 separated by a second. That is crazy. Netski and Isso not that far behind as well, so let's hope that that whole top 20 could get within a second. Let's see if they can accept our challenge.
So Simo then has started his final lap. Unless he's got enough fuel to back off if he needs to, but I imagine he'll try and make this the run. Again, there'll be a few cars that'll get in his way, hopefully not into the bus stop this time. His teammate will be one of those cars once again. I'm sure he'll have been written the riot act already, just to make sure you do not block me on this attempt. Simo, faster than his first attempt last time round, so it is a minor improvement. We don't know just how fast the time would have been first time around. It could well have been on pace for a decent position, so we'll stick with it anyway, because he will be the first one on the final lap, and then we'll just cut to everyone across the line, as we tend to do here. Hard to keep track of, but we'll do our best as Simo heads through Puon. And I noticed the car who was letting him through is practically stopped on track now. You want to be careful you don't get yourself disqualified by stopping on track, but he's got movement again now. Just trying to get himself plenty of room. There's 1 minute and 11 seconds on the clock. Sometimes that desyncs though, so I hope we'll see if the checker flag comes out at the right time, because the way some people are going, they might be a little bit tight on that. Simo 4 tenths up on his last try, and his teammate is well ahead. I don't think there's going to be any problems into the bus stop this time. The Mercedes moved across to let him through, and now, as Simo comes into the last section, his teammate is going to be pretty much in the same place as he was before, but now Simo doesn't have to worry about him as he comes through, and he's going to set his lap time. Will it be near the pace of the front runners? He goes P8. It's not a bad lap actually. Decent stuff from him. So let's see if we can figure out who's next. I think Gill is going to be the next one up. He's got, I believe, his teammate at the final corner, but again, they shouldn't be getting in each other's way. As Gill, one of the people that we've tipped for being a championship contender potentially, was up by a tenth in his middle sector. I could put him as far up as P3 if he makes a big enough improvement, but it's not enough to gain a single position in the end. He stays in P9. The rest coming across the line. Hadler's now in P6. We've got a Mercedes across the line as well. It's going to be very difficult to keep it track of. As we see next up, I believe that was Luca up into P5. The checkered flag is out now. So everyone who crosses the line from this point forward, it'll be their last try. Suko is invalidated, so that's a disaster for him. His teammate, though, is still on a decent enough lap. Netsky is just behind him. So we'll see those two crossing the line next. 15th and 19th. Will they move up any positions? The checker flags there, so this is their last try. Recon goes 13th. Netsky goes 16th. And as we said, Suko was invalidated. A big problem for him. Benny comes across the line. He will go P11. And next up, I believe we're going to have Wouters. Can't see how far he is up so far, so we'll just see what it's going to be like when he crosses the line. He goes up to P2. Not quite enough to go P1, but it's still decent. I think Daniel might have had a spin as well, so that's not going to be a lap completed for him. As Fabi comes around the final corner, he's making big improvements. This could go into the front row, it's good enough. Oh, just a bite behind Wouters, but a decent lap regardless. Corner comes through the final corner. I don't think he'll make any positions with us unless he had a really good final sector, which he hasn't, so he will stay P4. Next one up, I'm not too sure actually the next one will be. It might be Kazizel. Oh, is it Izu? Izu comes round and he stays P20. Kazizel goes P1 by 5 thousandths of a second. Can Baraka fight that one back? Because he's still out there, remember? And he's going to be one of the next cars across the line. I think he might well be invalidated. Yes, so he's not going to go pole today. And that does mean that Kazizel, right at the death, has taken pole position. The championship leader is on the front foot here in Spa, but it's worth pointing out that where he is right now on the track is where Baraka will surely be getting the slipstream of his life on lap 1.
Usually the best place to start in Spa is P2, so Kazizel is probably happy with his lap getting the qualifying glory, but I think turn 1 has got to be a good start for him if he wants to challenge Baraka and Wouters as well, because everyone's actually going to get the toe and Kazizel is not going to benefit from that toe. So hopefully he's practiced his starts. He's probably not predicted that he was going to get pole today, so hopefully he's predicted for every scenario, because that would be very, very good for him. Everyone's on the soft compounded tyres, and if it is going to be a dry race, which I do hope it is, because it's more interesting that it is a dry race, soft to medium strategy for the drivers, most likely inside the top 10. Outside the top 10, I think everyone's going to go on the mediums. I don't think anyone is going to go on the softs unless there's going to be an early safety car, which is quite common around here. So we'll go through your results now. Kazizel on pole from Baraka, Wouters, Fabi, Cornet, Suku, Luca, Haller, Daniel and Simo, separated by 0.4 of a second. Then we got Benny, Gil, Rizza, Recon, Dezo, Ashbest, Netsky, Brock, Valentin and Izu. Izu the only driver to not be within a second. Everyone else within 8 tenths. The top 4 separated by just under a tenth.
Yeah, as I'd said it earlier, it could be down to just thousandths of a second, and indeed it was in the end. That was a very, very impressive qualifying session. Like I say, you wouldn't expect it to be that close around here, but it always is. And yeah, superb performance from the guys out there. But 22 laps ahead of us, and this is where it tends to get very interesting, because like I say, it's one of the most unique runs up to the end of the first sector we have, because it's not often you don't want to be on pole. There's tracks like this, and maybe Russia as well as the other one, where you don't want there to be the massive slipstream. The rain here helps that, and it should be the full wet tyres as well. You can see a lot of standing waters on the pit lane and on the racetrack itself. Very similar to what we've seen in the Spa weekend actually in real life. That might help, because you'll have to lift up Eau Rouge, if not even put the brakes on for a little bit. So perhaps Kazizel might be a bit happier on pole position. And I might also explain why we didn't quite get into the 39s. Were there some wet setups out there?
Yeah, potentially. Not that surprised as well. I wasn't really paying attention to if anyone was on mediums, but I don't think anyone was on mediums during their qualifying session. And usually if nobody's on the mediums to get a banker in, that's usually a sign of full wets, because usually I like to start on the mediums for my first few ones to get a feel for it. So as we transition to the qualifying now, and yeah, it is full wets actually, and it's not as full wets as I was expecting. Not quite Monzu conditions and heavy conditions that we saw, obviously, in real life. At least they're able to race this time, like in real life. This is definitely replicating Saturday's conditions right now. But I think we're also thinking, is it going to get any lighter in terms of intensity? Is it going to be inters? Could it be a dry race at the end? But I think I've heard word from some of the engineers that it's going to be a full wet race. So I don't think we're going to get any changeable conditions. Interesting fact, Belgian Grand Prix has the highest amount of rainfall in the calendar. Well, it is the Ardennes Forest after all, so not really that surprised. So everyone's on the same strategy, everyone on the wet tyres as well. Technically the wets can go, but you don't have to pit if it's a full wet race if you don't want to. But I doubt the full wets will make it to the end, but the drivers can get to the end if they want to, but they've got to do some huge tyre saving in order to make that happen. So we'll see what they can do, as Cazidel has the pace. He's going to have some clear air at the start, so probably he's going to benefit. Baraka, maybe not, but if he gets Cazidel on the line to turn one, then he's probably going to dominate like last week, because the full wets is definitely his friend, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? I'm glad everyone's on the same compound tyre, so no one can have any grudges against the full wet now. They're being forced to use it instead of it being the big gamble.
Yay!
But, yeah, hopefully we'll see inters maybe become an option. We'll see if anyone even takes the risks as early as lap 1 or 2. If they have a full run at the start of the race and think, you know what, this isn't too bad, they might pit. But I do think right now it might stay heavy rain. But we saw this was similar conditions to France, really. And it was touchy there. I'm surprised no one took the gamble. Maybe the game doesn't let you take the gamble of inters on the grid. But, well, if they're all on the same tyres, they might not complain too much. There has been an accident now. A couple, actually. Isu's binned it, as well as the race leader, which isn't a good sign. So maybe you don't want to be on a dirt, because the full wets, I can't drive on those either. So the pole setter has already binned it, which is not a good sign, because, I think we've also had Baraka bin it as well. So it's not a good sign when through those sort of mid to high speed corners, even on the formation lap, the cars are losing. I wonder if that'll make those top tier a bit more conservative in Giro Rouge, and Radion could give the guys Valters and Fabi a bit of a leg up there. They'll be happy to see those two maybe just having that doubt put into their mind by those little mistakes.
Yes, and we're seeing a few more cars going onto the grid now. It's too hard to predict on who I think is going to win this race and when these drivers are going to pit. It's so unpredictable. Let's get this race underway. 22 laps await us today in PSGL PSF2.
So Iso, the last car on the grid, perhaps his slower qualifying laps for Judy a full wet setup. We'll see, because the lights are about to come on. Not a very long run towards turn 1. Like I said, it's going to all be about that run towards Lake Calm at the end of the first sector. But first, you've got to get some lights on. They aren't really on at the moment, but I trust me, they are coming. They tend to sort of flash on, don't they? At some point soon. We saw this a little bit previously, but it's just heightens attention a bit, doesn't it? You can see all the sponsors and everything on the screen. Aramco getting their viewers right now. Now we've got Rolex on the screen. Fascinating. You never notice all these things, but there we go. The lights are on. All 5 are here. It is a Belgian Grand Prix. Netsky has jumped the start. The rest have got away okay. And it's going to be side by side towards turn 1 as Baraka and Valters, and they're free wide again. They've done free wide again, and Valters in the Aston Martin takes the lead this time. And now, who's going to get there up the hill? Because Cazidel has stayed in second position. He will get the most advantageous attempt. Baraka hanging back a little bit. He's going to now get a really nice run because they've both gone wide. Cazidel and Valters. Oh, and Cazidel has just blocked off the path for Baraka. How is that going to make him feel? I don't imagine he'd be too happy about that because he had such a good run. What a start from the Aston Martin driver. The rest of them are all heading through. A few contact and a few going off the track, but nothing looks like it's too serious. Netsky with that jump start will have to make his pit stop before the end of lap 3, I believe, or else he will get the black flag. Daniel on his debut trying to go on the inside of Luca there for P7, and a little bit of contact there as well, and they'll go side by side through No Name now. Risky stuff, not so much fun as you would get in real life, but they're still going for it. This is a great fight on the opening lap, but surely someone's going to have to give. F3 cars can go side by side for them, but not quite the F1s, and I believe with that, everyone is getting through this first lap relatively cleanly. Good stuff from these guys. Oh, saying that, the McLaren so nearly went for an accident. Ash Best, luckily, they're holding on.
Yeah, we're seeing some battles, I think, towards the back as well. We got Recon that got the move on Brock as well, and there's a few people at the back struggling. Valentina's lost a few positions as well, and I have to say, the big story is Netsky with that drive-through. He's gained 5 positions, though, but he's going to drop all the way to the back, so he will probably be the biggest loser. Izzu and Valters gained the most in the opening lap, and it's Recon and Gil. Because Izzu lost it.
And that was surely how Baraka passed him into the bus stop, but he's lost it as well.
Ooh.
He lost it down the formation, I believe, as well. And he's lost it again, both of them, out of the final corner, and all this side-by-side behind as well. That sort of starts to take advantage. I think Baraka might be desyncing. That might be why he's falling down the grid. We'll keep our eye on him, though. Corner's got through on Fabi into what the game claims is 3rd place, but I doubt it because Baraka's car is still there. So, despite all their sliding and messing about, it should be alright. The hat of Valentine has gone for a spin at turn 1. I don't think there's any damage, but the conditions really are not easy. And Kazizel's slide has let Valters run clear. No one else having any issues. I'm waiting to see if Baraka's name is going to reappear. But it isn't at the moment, but we'll give it some time. There we go, back up to P3. Netsky flies at the inside of Benny. Not taking his drive-through straight away for some reason. He's got to remember he has to take it soon. It says on the screen it's lap 3. It is lap 2. So, yeah, we'll see what he does there. He's up to 11, but it's a shame as well, because he has had a decent start.
Yeah, it is a shame as well, but that is a bit unfortunate. The drive-throughs can be quite common on this game, and Netsky's going to hope that there's no safety car, because you can't take drive-throughs under safety car, and he's probably going to have to pit in very, very soon if that's the case. Usually, if I have a drive-through, I like to pit ASAP, and the timing tower is just not behaving itself, isn't it? Last week, we were absolutely delighted that the timings were okay, but this week it's just gone back to normal, which is not good at all. But, you know, Valters, who run the opening race in Bahrain, he missed last week, so he couldn't make it. It's definitely showing everyone else what they're made of right now as they head towards Blanchimont. I think a few people are taking it cautious in the first few laps because they see how dangerous El Rouge and Radion could be, and if they mess up there, then that could be their race over. Side pod and front floor could definitely be a huge factor here in the wet. So we got Daniel almost trying to make a move on Luca once again. It's hard to tell who's battling right now with the positions chopping and changing all the time. I did see someone in the pits, that is Netsky, that's gone to serve his drive-through, so that is out the way. Fabi could be on the back of Korn anytime soon as well, and it looks like Kazizel is under pressure from Baraka once again as well, but you have to be within a few tenths in the wet because it is hard with no DRS. They're going to rely on the toe, so if you could get close for the toe in the Kemmel Straight, that is where Baraka's going to go for the move, but he can't go for the move yet. Korn is not going to go for the move, neither is Netsky. So let's hope the Deltas just stop and just go back to normal. As Gil unfortunately has left the session, let's hope he goes back in at some point because we want to see him actually racing.
So Netsky took his drive-throughs, come out just behind his teammate, but sadly Haas running 19th and 20th. Not uncommon. But yes, we'll see if they can get back into it. They both have no damage, so as long as they get the safety car, then they'll be back into it. These timings are seemingly not fixing themselves, which is a real shame. Hopefully we can get Gats back soon. Obviously we have a track map which we can use, and obviously our own eyes, we can see what's happening on track, but it is just going to be maybe a tad difficult to see what's happening all around the track. And one way to Simo has a little bit of damage. He's sort of fallen off that leading train quite badly, and yeah, he might have just had a wee moment or something. Hopefully he hasn't got any floor damage. We think, I think Benny had damage last week, didn't he? Because his fast lap ended up about 4 seconds off everyone else's pace, but he kept it in there till the end of the race, and in the end ended up finishing something like P6. It was a cracking little result for him. And this time he's in it to win it, so hopefully with no damage, maybe he's someone who can get into it, because he's now got no pressure from behind, because you can see actually, Reese is now gone off the track as well. So they're all messing about off the track, and trying their best to keep it on, and there's some side-by-side as well. Deso has just shoved himself through Reese, who's probably not going to be too happy about that little nudge. I'm sure he'll be very aggressive coming back onto the track. And he's not going to dive up the inside. He has got Brock on his outside though, got to be careful that he don't make any contact. Any damage in the wet is a bit of a death sentence, unfortunately. But here we go side by side. We've lost our gaps again. But as Brock heads through, he's going to go up the inside of Eau Rouge. He's going to have to force Risa to back it off, and he nearly loses it off the way up. And he's going to end up losing 3 or 4 positions in a set of, 5 or 6 corners, unfortunately. Bit of a messy day, bit of a messy lap for Risa, who now falls into 15th place. So we're seeing the perils at the rear, but not particularly at the front yet. They're seemingly keeping it well behaved enough to not worry each other just yet. Feel that the rain, we've got to keep our eye on when it starts to get a little bit lighter, because I'm sure intermediates will end up being a call that they have to make at some point in this race.
Yes, it's definitely not as intense as it was at the start of the race as well, and also the drivers have got to be wary on their fuel as well, because obviously fuel is a lot harder to manage in the rain, as I found out a few times, because if you spin too much and if you short shift too much as well, then you're probably going to be using too much fuel. As Brock actually got past Deso there, I can't remember what corner it was, I think it was Campus that he got past, so Brock's now up into 12th, 2 places more, and he'll be in the points, and he's closing in onto Simmer actually, so he's probably got damage, the Red Bull driver, which is a bit of a shame as well. Let's look at our front pairing right now.
Reese is
out of the race. Could it be a safety car? It looks dangerous for a safety car, but let's fall with Valentine. It's just on the left of Paul Frere, it looks like, before Blanchemont, so, but it's off the track, so I don't think there would be a safety car. But what a shame there. A few people have to slow down, I think, because of that incident. The Deltas is back, luckily, and it's showing that Valtters is leading by 1.2 seconds. Baraka is closing in by 8 tenths, but not quite enough. The battle that we're probably going to see on track is between P7 and 8. Daniel versus Luca. Daniel the debutant versus Luca, who's been in this series for quite a while. Past Del Rouge, they managed to cope with that all right in the wet then. Probably have to break just a little bit earlier into El Rouge and Radion, as they normally would as well. And Riz is left the session in disgust. Luca closed the door. Suko is also in that train as well. I wonder if Suko is struggling for grip as well, or I wonder if he just wants to get into some battles, because I thought Suko had a comfortable gap over Luca and Daniel, but it seems like Luca and Daniel are just using each other for slipstream, and it's allowing those two to catch up. There was almost a bit of a love tap between the pair of them. Not nice as well. We also got Haller in there as well, Benny, all in a battle for 6th place. That could get very, very intense indeed.
Yeah, I think for now, though, they're keeping it very clean, aren't they? They don't want to fight too much, which, from their point of view, of course, it's the smart thing to do because you don't want to have an accident. We've seen Marisa. I think he probably went on his own, but I'm sure he'll probably tell us at some point. It feels like he did, though. Yeah, they're just gonna brave it out, because I'm sure they'll be thinking about that crossover point more than actually fighting. But look, if anyone makes a mistake, someone will points. But yeah, they are just keeping it well behaved at the moment, and waiting for the mistakes. Valtters has done well because he's had over a second gap pretty much the whole race. That means he's pretty much under 0 pressure. Saying that, he's just lost half a second at the final corner, so can't make too many of those little errors, because he had the gap and now it's closing. Corn, I believe, just set the fastest lap for Mercedes as well there, so he is certainly doing his bit to try and keep up with this pack. But yeah, they're just in a bit of a stalemate situation. The thing with the ERS as well is that they'll save so much more of it that no one's going to be under any ERS pressure. They can use whatever they want when they want, because they know they'll gain it back in 2 or 3 corners. So even in the slipstreaming, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference with fighting. I mean, you can see it on the Camel Straight. Not one single car is close enough to fight, because they both have so much ERS to use. But we'll see. We'll see what they do, but I do think it's going to be basically taking advantage on the crossover point or mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's mainly going to be mistakes, I think, with some of these drivers as well. But for Korn, he's showing some consistent lap times already, going faster than almost anyone as well. I'd like to see if he's faster in any sector, or maybe it's just consistent overall. As I think it'll be a question of when really he gets past Baraka, but I'm sure Baraka's going to defend for his life as well. Fabian Suko has dropped off as well. Luca's dropped off from Suko, and he's probably more worried about the guys behind of Daniel, Haller and Benny most likely as well. Simo is catching up a bit, but not close enough. But I think if there is any damage, that's definitely hurting him a little bit as well. And obviously with the two Hasses not having a good day, they're probably not going to benefit from this either. Speaking of the Hasses, Valentine's the only driver so far that's got a penalty. No one else has got any penalties so far. You can go wide in certain corners like Paul Frere, for example, maybe into the Kemmel Straight. I think that's probably the main corners I would say that they can get exceeding track limit warnings. If you get 3 warnings, you do get a time penalty. Daniel's cornering speed in the bus stop chicane was very, very good. And speaking of penalties, Recon has just got one. And I think we're starting to see who's actually properly benefited with their wet setup and who hasn't. As they did say it was a full wet race, but the weather has been set to approximate, so it could get lighter, it could dry up at the end, you never know. So the drivers have got to be on the ball. And again, Cornet catching up again. Is he going to close up? No, I think he's just a little bit too further back. Maybe next lap, but yeah, I definitely do agree that they're not going to use as much ERS in the rain. So that's something less to worry about. As long as they don't use too much overtake, because you can't use too much overtake in a lap. It won't let you. So that will be interesting.
Yeah, that's the one thing they'll all need to keep their eye on. I mean, in fairness though, in qualifying laps, even you struggle to use the whole bar. You'll see on the telemetry, it's the top bar when they're using their ERS, it'll always be decreasing, and they've got the harvesting bar as well. So they will be just keeping around it, because I imagine they must be near enough filling the bottom harvesting bar. As long as they don't use too much of the top bar, then really it should be actually quite easy to manage after a couple laps. So I think by now they'll all be good with that. And yeah, they're just sort of stalemate mode, aren't they? But I think Cornet is the one who's looking the fastest at the moment. But there's just nothing he can do. He's on 100% ERS. What more can he do? He's just making himself ready. But yeah, let's just see through the field who's actually made the most sort of grind on that start, because it's proven to be quite the important one. You can see Brock's the one who's made the most up, and Issa as well. But the rest are just sort of 1s and 2s, really, in terms of position. I think Valters, with that superb start, it's proving more and more important to him every single lap that he got by both of the front row into turn 1. I think that's, like I say, the second race in a row, because Dizzle now sits the fastest lap, that we've seen the man who started 3rd lead it into at the end of the first lap. So he's certainly got the good win there for Aston Martin. But yellows.
Luca.
These are the mistakes I'm talking about, because that's what Luca now, I think his teammate just got by and was very slippery on the exit. Hopefully he hasn't picked up any damage or something, because he'll have Simo closing in on him very quickly. We'll see if Simo can try and get by Benny, who's sliding again at the top of the hill, and that will be Simo straight up then into P9. So taking advantage of the AlphaTauris both having their own separate issues. They're 3 wide almost now. You want to be careful not to have any sort of incident. Brock is just calmly sitting there waiting for the collision as Benny slides into the side of his own teammate. Luckily, there's no issues with that though. But Benny, I don't know what happened to him. He's just struggling a massive amount at the moment as Brock now dives up the inside of turn 8. I should get that one done if Benny starts sliding on the exit as he has in the last few. And yeah, he's just no grip there, Benny, and down to 12th now and falling back ever more. Hope he hasn't got any more of that floor damage. You saw, like I say, how badly it cost him last week. O'Corn, by the way, has caught the back of Baraka a little bit more, who's fallen away from Kazizel, who appears to have put his foot down. You can see he's got a fuel warning light look, and that might be suggesting that he is giving everything right now. Valentine at the back has got a penalty. These Hasses, by the way, have done decently well actually to catch up to the back of Gill somewhat. They're getting somewhat close to the back of the trail again, so they're not fully out of it despite their spin and drive-throughs. So that's good to see. But yeah, at the front, Kazizel, that fuel warning light certainly suggests that he wants this lead of the race.
Yep, he does, and I think he's the only one out of all the drivers to have the yellow warning light at this lap. Everyone else seems to be fine as well, and I think the only way that you're burning fuel more is using the overtake button, really. And I wonder if Kazizel has done a Sebastian Vettel and put less fuel in the car maybe than intended. I hope not, because we want to see him push as much as he can as we head towards El Rouge. At the moment up the hill, and Baraka as well could catch up if any of those two do not make a move. I'm almost certain that would happen in the dry, in the wet, maybe not so much, because if you get too close in these wet conditions, the spray is just too much. But obviously it's less intensified than it was before in certain parts of the track, because we've seen it in real life in qualifying and the bits of the laps under the safety car as well. It's more intensified in some parts than the others as well, so they got to take advantage of that. As Korn again can't get past, Fabi's in this as well. Suku could be back in this too. It's just all so close, but I think the Haas are gonna hopefully benefit from this if any of the other drivers make mistakes, which is, I think, unfortunately inevitable, to be honest. And also these drivers, again, in the full wets, do not have to pit on this game. I do not know why I need 50%, but you do not have to. I don't think they'll make it, so I think it's just a damage limitation for them. I wonder if some of the drivers will pit towards the end if they think the rain's going to get better, or if it's just full wets for the end. Maybe they just want to have a splash and dash at the end and just be on fresh tyres to try and get some moves done, but they want to see what everyone else is doing at the moment. It just died down in terms of battle. Unless you're Brock, he's doing a very good job to see if he could get some points on the board. His first race as a full-time driver. He's raced in the first 2 races as a reserve, but now he's full-time, and let's see what happens with him as they head towards the bus stop. I don't think he's going to get the move done yet, but he's so much confident on the brakes any more later than he probably would have struggled as Luca goes into the pits. I wonder if it's that for damage. Is that for damage, or if it's just a tactical pit stop? This could get interesting.
Yeah, let's see what he's going to put on then. Obviously, we've been full wet the whole way, but let's see. Full wets again, so it's just I guess it's scheduled pit stop. Baraka's as close to the back of Zizzle as he's ever been, by the way. I wonder if Zizzle had a little mistake up the hill. Sadly, Baraka can't really challenge him though, even though he got to within 4 tenths. Just gets stuck again, doesn't it? And it's yeah, just that waiting game. But the rain still looks relatively heavy, so I don't think they'd want to go for intermediates yet anyway. But yeah, Luca maybe trying to undercut. He's straight away onto the ERS and in the free air. Perhaps can try and recover some positions after he had that mistake earlier on in the race. But yeah, we'll keep our eye on him then, see if he moves up at all. He'd only really move up to, what, maximum 9th because Simu's 5 seconds off Hadler. So that's where he's aiming for, I guess, Luca.
Yeah, according to the tyre data that I've written in my notes, 19 laps these full wets can last for, the same amount of time as the hard compounded tyres. So there'll be some laps where they're not pushing too much if they want to get those wets to the end. Maybe I think they've got an extra few laps in them as well, but the optimum pace towards around lap 17 and 18 is going to be awful. So we've got a yellow flag somewhere, sector 2 and sector 3. Recon, who's had a spin, no wing, and he may have some floor damage as well. Oh, he's struggling.
Could be VSC if he keeps it spinning around, because there's debris on the track as well. That's just despawn though, so they might just get away with that.
Yeah, but I think he got away with that. Suka's in the pits as well. I think Luca has triggered, I think, everyone else to potentially do the same thing, especially Suko. So I don't think he's got damage. Again, another tactical pit stop. That could be the sign for everybody else to be thinking, hang on, I don't think my tyres are going to be optimum race pace at the end. Maybe I should pit now halfway into the race and do 11 laps on the wets for the first stint, 11 laps on the full wets for the next stint. That's probably the most logical way of doing it, I think, if I was racing a full wet race, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they're doing, but I think it's worth pointing out that these lap times are only getting quicker. It's not by much at the minute, but it's proven that the wets that they're already on are grippy enough to keep them out there. So I'm not too sure if these early pit stops are the best idea at the moment, actually, as Ash Best gets by easy, because the tyres will take a while to get back into the right temperature range, you know? I mean, Lucas had a slower sector 1 than his fastest, mind you, he might have had some tow for that one, but undercutting on wet might not work, and if the rain does get lighter, which these pit stops suggest it won't actually, but you know, it's just for pointing out that maybe you want to be overcutting them, because I think once you get to a certain point on these wetter tyres, same with the intermediates, they feel really good after 5 or 6 laps onwards, and you're always surprised by just how long they take once you make that pit stop. So that'll be something for the front 4 to think about. Maybe they'll all pit together, even the top 5, because obviously Fabi's not onto this train, because they're all from different teams, which means they can all pit at the same time if they want to. and it could just cover it all off.
Yes, it's not like last week where we had a safety car when the weather changed quite drastically and we saw a lot of people that we thought that were going to do well got held up by their teammate, but they had no other choice really. If they did not pit, they would have lost so much more time just being stuck behind the safety car. So I guess that is the benefit. I think the only issue is the Red Bull drivers. We got Simo and Deso not that far behind each other, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But for everybody else, they should be fine. And we got the two Williams close enough as well. That is not good. So maybe one driver will have to pit. Korn has been passed by Fabi there. So I wonder if Korn has made a mistake there into
on the left.
Okay.
He must have hit a wall somewhere on the way up the hill. That'll have to be into the pit lane. Even the smallest damage out here, it's done for you. So you will have to pit Korn, unfortunately. That's a real shame because he had some pace. Was looking good for the top 5, and now he's going to fall to the back of the grid because he will have to crawl back. Recon is the only one who's really going to be ahead because Recon's back into the pits anyway. This could even be, I don't know why he's back in, but he's really not happy. He's floored it in. So he's maybe getting a bit of rage out there, the Alpine man, as he retires from the race. Cornered out, continues to struggle back. You will be careful going off the track for too long because the game will have a sort of, it has a wee timer that automatically kicks off when you go off the track. And if you're off for too long, like Corner was in Pouon, you could get penalties for that. Luckily though, he's not getting anything. He's just going to have to get it back to the pits. Like I say, a safety car could rescue his afternoon. But for now, it's a painful return to the pits. 16 seconds off in the middle sector. That's just a little end plate missing, you know. Imagine losing the whole wing round here. You'd have an absolute nightmare getting back. Hopefully these guys all behind can get by. This is not the ideal place to catch a slow car, as Ash Best just avoids him. It was close that. Iso's now caught Rowsey Ash Best because he had to probably put the brakes on. And, oh, look at that. Gale, I think, just got by Suko there, or maybe just defended from him, as they're all avoiding the Mercedes. Valentine's into the pits just ahead of him, but Corner, yeah, he's fallen right to the back with just one end plate missing. I reckon he'd probably be heading for the retirement as well. Yes, he is.
Yeah, not that surprised, to be honest. I think the first race where he's had a troubled afternoon and evening, to be honest, for him, and that may be the race that if people wonder how he probably will lose the championship fight, that may be this race, but he's still in it. There's still plenty of races to go, so there could be races where he gets some wins and absolutely fight head to tooth to nail out there. But we're seeing the Williams cars absolutely giving it full beans right now, and I have to say, the more worn tyres it is, I think a lot better for the Williams pairing at the moment. They saved up so much for this moment, but it may be too little too late. Ash Best, I'll have to say, a brilliant comeback drivers, like the conditions are made for him right now. Deso in the points too. Penalties won't affect them too much because of the gaps, because Hadler and Daniel only ones in the top 10 to get those penalties. And the pit lane loss that you lose around this track, 17.5 seconds, and that feels like a long time if you're got damage, because you're going to lose even more, around about 8-10 seconds. So pretty much almost half a lap is lost by going into the pit sometimes, which if you got damage, which is annoying, and let's hope nobody else gets some damage out there. But impressed with the top 10 keeping it relatively clean, damage free right now, which means that if they keep it there, they could be on for some really solid results indeed, and that would help them for the rest of the season, because for some of these guys, it's their first experience of an actual full wet race. They did have experience obviously last week with the changeable conditions, but the full wets were only for a bit of a period of time, whereas this time it's for the whole race. So they're seeing how much the full wets can handle with 13 laps already done on them and only not that long to go until the lifespan hits, really. As Netsky's in the pits as well, as he's probably going to go on to some fresh set of wets as well, so he can potentially set some fastest laps, take it away from the top 10. But no one else inside the top 10 is budging to go on another set of full wets yet, so that is interesting.
Lucas' tyres are now starting to get into the right window. You might have seen he just set the fastest lap of the race. It took him a few laps to get the grip into the tyres, but now it's there. he will start to catch on everyone he's undercutting. As Kazizel picks up a 3-second penalty, that could be so important for his race. I mean, I don't see the top other guys maybe getting one today. It's so hard to get one in these conditions, but he's managed it, unfortunately. So Kazizel, currently second place, might end up falling to 4th as it stands. But yeah, let's say, obviously Luke is pitting, and we're assuming that you might not have to pit in this race. I think it's allowed in wet conditions. You don't have to make the mandatory stop because, well, why would you if the tires
That's
can
correct.
do the
You don't
whole
have to pit
distance?
in full wets.
And so I am sort of wondering, the more and more laps we complete here, as you say, Jess, 19 laps these tires can go. How many times have we said this, and then the tires have gone 5 or 6 laps longer than we thought?
That's
And
the game for you.
And we only
Unfortunately.
need... Well, no, it could just be good tire saving from these guys. I wouldn't be able to do as many as these guys do, but they know what they're doing. And they could, some of them, just get them to the end and not have to pit. We'll see who does it. Some people didn't feel confident with it, of course, but others might, because we're on lap 15 now. And, well, as I say, the tires take a decent amount of time to heat up, so you'd really want to be pitting if you are going to pit in the next sort of 3 or 4 laps, or else, you know, you're not going to make any gain. So they could be all going to the end here, and Luca will be sitting there thinking, why has no one else pitted yet? But we'll see how it all pans out at the end of the race. Luca, again, another fastest lap, definitely on the pace now. Gap to Simo, I guess you'd be looking at, is about 15 seconds. So he'd probably jump him by now, I'd imagine. But it's dependent on if they all pit, which is not exactly guaranteed.
No, that's what I like about this full wet race. Unpredictability. We don't know who's going to pit or not. It kind of reminds me of a sprint race, but we got the 2 Williams going at it at the Kemmel Straight, the only battle that's going on right now as well. But hopefully we won't see some punches. But we know Valtters is very good on tyre management. So if Valtters struggles, then probably everyone else is going to struggle as well. Isu almost tried to have a look on Gil once again. Has Gil once a bit wide there in Brussels into no name now. They're going full belt at the moment, these Williams drivers. We're not having any battles at the front, but we are having battles for the lower positions, P12. They're giving it everything. Isu doing a cracking job to fend off his teammate. Suko is on fresh tyres as well, almost in the operating
Gil's in the wall.
Gil's in the wall. The same
safety car.
Same place as George Russell and Antonio Giovinazzi had a bit of a coming together, so not good. And I'm surprised there's no safety car yet. Go on, game. Make your mind up. Don't be like Michael Massey on Saturday by deciding the red flag too late.
They're not going to put one out.
No, they're not.
Do you know what? That's ordinarily I'd say, oh, that's a shame, but I don't think you want a safety car to ruin what is happening at the front here with the strategy. Do they stay out? Did they not? Because the safety car, well, it's just a free set of slow laps, isn't it? So keep them full pace the whole race. I want to see these guys pushed, because as it stands, Valtters will be sitting there. He wins this race, he takes the championship lead, so he sort of knows what's there for him. Obviously won the first race, wasn't here for the second race. Now looking to make it 2 wins in 2 effectively for him this season. And we will surely be thinking about the tyres. Can he get into the end? Safety car would ruin that strategy, but luckily we're not going to be getting one. So he'll keep going round, and we'll see how this all pans out at the end. As the guys on newer tyres still do set fastest lap, but the guys at the front aren't budging.
But at least the ones on the new tyres are giving something to fight for at the moment, as Suko could get by Izzo. So might be the crossover point is now for those newer tyres to operate, and for the ones on 15 lap old tyres be thinking, hang on, these guys are pushing at the moment, as Suko is being very brave in this understeery part of the track. Is he going to hold his line into no name? He's going to try at least, as he's right on the gearbox of Izzo. Now, trying towards Pouron is very, very brave. We saw that in the first lap as Izzo brakes just a little bit early. You have to react to the drivers around you. If you brake the same time as the guy in front, then probably there is going to be some incidents. So Suko doing a great job on the awareness front in the Alpine car, of course. Kind of reminds me of Fernando Alonso doing very, very well around this track in the Renault days, and he's doing not too bad here. If he, if people have to pit in the top 11, then Suko will technically be the net race lead. but the gaps are so big you never know. Izzo is having some internet issues. Hopefully this won't affect Suku as we head towards past Blanchimont now into the bus stop chicane. So this is going to be the move he's looking for then. Goes to the right. Is he going to keep it there? And Izzo struggles a little bit for grip, and that's what's helped Suku there with the fresher tyres. He's up into 12th.
Good stuff from Suku then. 3 seconds of clean air in front of him now as well, so hopefully he'll be able to pull away from Misu. It shows the difference from new tyres compared to the old tyres. I'm sure Luca will also reiterate that point as soon as he catches up. Isu is actually running out of VRS, he's used that much, and even then Suku made easy work of him. As you say, if the leaders do pit, then yeah, likes of Suku will be on the up, but the laps are counting down now and they're still not in the pits. It's an interesting situation. I must say, I've never actually had a league race before, I don't think, where we've had this situation where leaders could do the whole race. Is it worth it? We'll find out. But yeah, we'll keep around the situation. The rain isn't lightening up either, so even waiting for intermediates, I'm not too sure that's what they're doing either.
No.
So yeah, they must be just trying to get to the end. Kazizel's hoping that something happens with these three round and they're getting penalties, but that's not happening either at the moment. He's struggling for grip. You could see I was on his own board there and he was sideways all the way through the Paul Frere corner. You lose it there, of course. We saw it happen to Risa, straight into the wall. Rear tyre was ripped off for him in that occasion, so we've just got to keep it calm. A long 5 laps ahead as Brock gets through Simo, who might have had similar issues at Paul Frere because Brock's a long way ahead of him already. No one is pitting still.
Oh,
and we're keeping on to lap 18. This whole top 11 at the moment appear to be staying out. As much as Simo's struggling, he still isn't pitting. So that's as strong a statement as any. As Valentine has lost it at Paul Frere corner. Again,
safety car.
That was in the middle of the track, wasn't it? And did you see his teammate Netsky nearly went into him? I thought on that occasion, yeah, it's going to have to be safety car. And it does kind of spoil the strategy, I've got to say. Well. Mind you, the front guys could pit and then the 2 behind them could stay out, you know? But I have a feeling that they'll take their free pit stop now, but we'll see. We'll see. Because it might be actually a big risk if anyone in that top 11 decides not to pit, so they might all just stay out. Mind you, we tried to predict what would happen in France when we got a late safety car, and we were completely wrong. So we'll just watch and wait and see. They're all under Delta, so the gaps will stay the same. But as soon as people cross start-finish line, then their deltas disappear, but the safety car is just on the extra one, so they won't be able to go flat out for very long. So, I mean, I don't see how anyone would be jumping anyone else, but we'll see. See what they do. Like I said, it's a shame you get a safety car at this stage of the race when the strategy's just getting to that apex of its potential, and we see what's going to happen, but now we might see it sorted in the pits. Chance that Hadler might stay out if his teammate pits, because they would have to stack, and I don't think he'd want that. Same with Daniel as well, our rookie today. In the Ferrari, his teammate pitting maybe would persuade him not to, but we'll see what they all do as they head towards the bus stop chicane.
Yes, I think if Valtters blinks first, then I think everybody else would follow suit. But Valtters is not going to know what the guys behind do, so technically he's the leader in that front. But for some of these guys, they don't want to lose track position. But some other guys, they're staying out because Izzle is in. Baraka stays out. Fabi stays out as well. Daniel stays out, Hadler stays out, and we're going to see what Brock, Simo, Benny, and Deso do. Kazizel will see what he does. That may either be a great strategy for Kazizel or not, because it's hard to overtake in the words. They don't have that long to actually race. They only have a few laps of green flag racing, and it's gonna not many people are gonna have time to catch up to the safety car, because you're only allowed, I think, 1 or 2 laps of safety car racing when it gets to the end. So surely staying out would be the option. So Valtters could have an easy win here, but he's got to hold up the likes of Baraka, Fabi. Daniel could be on for his best result in his first race. Shame about the penalty, without the penalty, he could have been in 4th place. Hadler as well. Brock could have his good result as his first race as a full-time driver, and he will be getting points for the Mercedes team. Mercedes, I believe, are still leading the Constructors' Championship, if my notes are correct. Yes, they are, with 28 points. So Brock doing well for Mercedes to get points with Cornet out of the race. So, but I'm not sure if Mercedes will keep it, because the gap between Mercedes and Aston Martin is not a lot, 6 points. So with the 2 Aston Martins in the top 5, it could be Aston Martin leading the Constructors after this race, with Hadler having a great race as well. So we'll see. But I wonder if the ones that pitted and made a mistake, or I wonder the ones that pitted have probably had a strategy masterclass. But if I was them, there was no point going in, because the rain is either not getting lighter or intensifying, so I would have probably stayed for track position. But we'll see. And the drivers are going to benefit from the safety car anyway, because they're on reduced pace, so the wet should comfortably get to the end.
Yes, but the fame for Gazelle, of course, is on 18-lap newer tyres. So that could help him potentially. Sitting 7th, he was one of the drivers who was struggling a lot as well before the safety car came out, so I guess he would have been comfortable with that pit stop, and he has a penalty anyway, so he might as well try something different, because he was going to fall back regardless because of the safety car. Now, the lights haven't got long to go out. The whole pack has caught the safety car, but it doesn't appear to be going in, and that's a real shame, because it will leave us with only 2 more racing laps. And I don't really see why it's stayed out. I don't quite get that, to be honest, but that's a real shame. So we're going to lose a lap of racing. Will Isu pit? I'm surprised Isu stayed out on those tyres. He might as well. I mean, he only lose like 3 positions, but stays out. And yeah, we'll see what these guys at the front will be like on the restart. Because I guess old tyres being worn down and then slowed down by the safety car possibly doesn't help either. But it's hard to predict what's going to happen here. And I don't see Valtter's losing the win. Although, as we say, Baraka in the wet conditions, he's certainly a man who wants to correct the record and say, no, I am the best in the wet. Made a mistake last time, wants to correct it this time. Fabi has been just sat and waiting the whole race, waiting for this to come to him. He's seen 2 of his competitors drop out in front of him, be it through accidents or pit stops. And he could be someone who feels he can go for it as well. Shame about Daniel Hadler's penalties. Brock's had a superb race so far. Could get better for him still. He's sitting in at P4, having started all the way in. Where did he start? P18, didn't he? I mean, he's having a stunning performance, and it's only going to get better if he keeps it on the road. A lot of drivers are in this to get good results right now. It's just who gets the best one, really.
Maybe this could be the start of Brock's championship campaign. We saw that with Suku last season to get runner-up. So maybe Brock could be the driver that was midfield at the start of the season with him being in the reserve role, and then towards the middle half of the season from now, he could be playing the lead driver role, as it were, at the moment, with his teammate not being here due to retirement. So we're looking at the safety car lights soon, because we're going to get to a stage into Paul Frere. It's got to come out now, because we've never seen a situation where we've ended on the safety car. I don't think the game would allow that. So I think it's going to come in this lap. Yes, it does. So the safety car light is out. Wouters is the lead car, so he is the de facto safety car. And he's going to have some clear air in front of him. Everybody else is going to have the spray, so you can hardly see anything. So you're going to judge your reactions very, very quickly. And the ones with penalties are probably worried, as well as the ones that have been on the tyres since the very beginning. Kazizel, if he messes this up, that could be his chances over. But Kazizel, he's probably going to take advantage of other people making mistakes, as he's the first drive. Oh, he's almost made a mistake. Blue Blanchemont, you don't want to do that, my friend. But he's the lead driver.
Gone. He's gone. The race leader has floored it straight away, and I don't think anyone's realised, apart from Baraka.
Yeah.
It's caught us off guard a bit as well, but Valters doesn't catch the safety car, so it was a fair enough move to go as early as he did, and he is blasted off into the lead of this race. 2 to go. And Fabi, like I say, well, he'll have to deal with the guys behind him now because he's not really as close to the leaders as he would have liked. Kazizel is straight past Brock already, and he's making the progress. He would have hoped that the safety car would have gone in one lap earlier. I don't see really why it didn't. But now he has a chance to catch up. What's he going to be like up the hill? Is he just going to have that much more confidence than Hadler to try and close up? It's not much of a difference, but I'm sure he'll be feeling it probably in the middle sector as well. He could get himself back up. Let's say, in effect, there was nothing to lose by going for the strategy. But we'll see how this pans out. As Valters has a comfortable 9/10 of a second lead. All looking good there. I don't see him losing the win. He's had such a dominant day. He's led every single lap of this race. And he's certainly been the best man out there. We'll see if he holds on for the victory. Ash Best has put himself into the top 10. He was already going to get a point because of all the penalties, but now he's there on merit as he sets P10 from McLaren with Suko challenging behind on 11 lap newer tyres. Kazizel through Pouon looks so much quicker than Hadler, but there's no way through at the moment unless he can do anything interesting for the Fania chicane. Perhaps Hadler will struggle to get on the throttle, could have a chance in the Paul Frere section for Kazizel, but I think he's just going to have to sit there and wait. At the very least, he'd want to be getting ahead of Hadler and Daniel because they are 4th position because they've all got the same penalty, and he would finish, well, ahead of those two. The gaps possibly would put them back down to the sort of 7th, 8th, 9th positions. Valters 6/10 ahead of Baraka, who's used his whole bar of ERS almost on that lap. He'll have both of them about enough to cross the line and not run out. It's because it does get by Hadler and will be on the back of his teammate next. As we start the final lap of the race, has Baraka got anything in the tank? They both, the front two, have enough ERS to easily get into the end, so they will use as much as they possibly can. And Baraka, he needs a bit of a miracle as Valters heads up the hill. As we see Ashbest and Isu are fighting away. Valters has survived up the hill, as has Baraka. Fabi too. Kazizel's not close enough to his teammate to even fight, so he's looking like he might be resigned to 5th as it stands. Not really what he was wanting there. Isu side by side with Ash Best at the top of the hill. Again, this is for 11th place on track, but Ash Best should still be okay for the points, so he's probably not going to take too much of a risk here. He'll want to get that point home for McLaren, but Isu does make a little bit of contact and they go side by side. And I'm amazed Ash Best is really fighting this one because it could easily go wrong. Look at the time they're losing already. And Simo's now into the back of this too. Meanwhile, at the front, Baraka has put his foot down. I've seen him taking his line all day where he uses the tarmac on the outside of Pouon's entry. Which is perfectly okay to use as long as you're okay with being on the grass as well. Ash Best has had an accident and he will not finish in the points. He should have just held off, I think, and he didn't. But Baraka, is he planning some sort of move into the bus stop chicane? Will he try anything to win this race? Valters, is he worried about his tyres? Has he pushed them too far? As we see Isu going off the track. And Baraka, the slipstream has been all these guys could rely on all day. The rain's probably as heavy as it's been all day. As we head through, Baraka is using every little piece of the ERS in his tank. He's off the track, he's pushing like mad. And Valters is just holding his line. He moved to the inside to defend. Has he made the corner? Yes, he has. It looks all good for him. Baraka will try and get the exit, but I think Valters will hold on. He's led every single lap of this race, and Valters does win the Belgian Grand Prix from Baraka. Fabi. And then we'll see the penalties take effect. So Brock, what a result in P4. Daniel on debuts in 5th, Benny 6th, Kazizel 7th, Deso 8th, Hadler 9th, and Suko in 10th place. I think there was a fastest lap set as well on that lap by Suko, so he will pick up 2 points there in the end. And Ash Best, well, he had that accident on the last lap. Could have been the points, wasn't.
Yeah, he shouldn't have risked it. He shouldn't have risked it. If he didn't gamble with the overtakes that he's done, then he would have been in the points, and that's probably come back to bite him at the moment. But Brock, I think, apart from Valters, has got to be one of my drivers of the day, because starting 18th in these conditions to 4th position, no penalties as well, you can't put it past him. He's driven amazing, and he avoided the carnage, which is so hard to do in these wet conditions. So I have to say Brock did an amazing job, but you can't put it past Valters for leading every single lap. His start, I was actually riding on board with him with his start. It was incredible, I would have to say. We got a German 1-3 on the podium, and I'm sure Aston Martin will be delighted with that. And we also got Baraka, who redeemed himself after last week. I'm sure he would have wanted the win, but at least he has to settle for second place, and I'm sure he'll be pretty happy with that. So those are your top three. We've got Valtters, Baraka, Fabi, Brock, Daniel doing well on debut in 5th. Benny, another 6th place. He does like his 6th places, doesn't he? Good comeback from him after he may have got damaged, not entirely sure. Because this all starting on pole. We're keeping the tradition of the guy who starts on pole never wins the race or does well. So, but at least he still get points this time. Dezo in 8th, Hadler 9th, Suko in 10th. Those are your point scorers. Suko gets the fastest lap. Then we got Netsky, Ashbest, Luca, Simo, Izu. Those are your finishers. And then your retirements are Valentin, Gil, Cornet, Recon and Reese. Only 5 retirements and not many troubles actually. Into El Rouge and Radion. That was the least of our worries today.
Yeah, they all behaved themselves actually up there, so that's good to see. Apart from maybe Corner, who had that issue. But with this race then, Valtters, as we said before, makes it 2 wins out of 2 because he doesn't start the last race. So he's only been here for 2 races. He's got 2 wins. He leads the championship now. And looks good as we head towards Zandvoort. We're sort of following the real F1 calendar at this point because we're going from Belgium this week to Zandvoort to Monza, just like the real calendar is doing. So we're going to stay in touch with that. But yes, Valtters, as long as he doesn't get shuffled up to F1 as well, looking good to have a good run at this championship.
Yes, and I have to say the drivers that have done well are pretty much consistent. Valtters being consistent, and he showed like he did in Bahrain that you don't really have to start on pole to win the race, and he was just incredible out there as well. And Fabi as well, again, doing well in these wet conditions. He feels like he's at home. He's probably going to hope it's wet when we head to Zandvoort next week. Otherwise, it's going to be trouble. I do believe we had changeable conditions in Zandvoort last season as well. Yeah. So we could have another wet session. The last time where we've seen wet-affected races for the first 6 or 7 rounds was the first season in the F1 2020 game cycle, season 26. First 6 races was wet affected either in qualifying and the race in F2. We could see something similar now, but I think we're just waiting for the drivers to head into the interview, and I'm almost certain we're going to hear from Fabi, because we heard from Fabi last week. But I have to say, you couldn't put it past Valtters, but Brock, I have to say, another driver of the day, I would have to say, doing well to cover off his teammate for having a rubbish race.
Yeah, it was a great drive from Brock there, because he made all those positions early on, but then didn't get any penalties and was consistent enough to make himself really a flying bullet out there, and he ended up finishing in P4. Was such a good result. And then obviously you've got to say Valtters, for that start alone, I mean, and then to dominate the race afterwards, he did not look under pressure at any point, maybe apart from that bus stop chicane in the final lap, but even then he covered it off beautifully. There was no way Baraka could have got through, and so really, I'd say, yeah, Valtters and Brock were the 2 best drivers out there today. They did a very good job.
Yes, and I wonder if those are going to be the championship protagonists, really. But we've seen last season that it's not just 2 that are in this. Lamakina, for example, did well in Belgium, but he lost it a few times in some of the other races. So we don't know, pretty much until around about round 6 or 7, who is going to be still in this fight. And with it being more races than last season, I think people have more chances as well. So we've got Netherlands next week, then we got Monza, then we got Silverstone, Austria and China. So that are the races that are going to be happening in September. China, I don't think the drivers will be keen on, but I think the other tracks I'm really much looking forward to, in particular Monza as well for the Temple of Speed, but that's in 2 weeks' time. Is anyone going to join us? Oh, we got Fabi again. We got Fabi again. Let's drag him in. So, Fabi, hopefully you can hear us this time. Another good performance in the wet conditions for you this week. You must have been praying for the rain because you got some solid points for McLaren.
What did you say? I didn't hear everything.
You weren't praying, were you? You were just hoping for a good result out there. But talk us through the start of that race and how you were handling with the pressure out there, because it must have been very hard to see.
Yeah, it was at the start. The tires haven't got any temperature. They were freezing so much, and we haven't got any grip. I think at Radio or Rouge, you saw a few cars go wide, and it was so tricky to race there. I fully understand now that they red flagged yesterday's session.
Yes, fair play to all the drivers today who put on a good show despite it being wet as well. But you saw that most drivers in front did not pit. Luckily, most of you guys actually, pretty much all the guys that stayed out, managed to get those tyres to the end. Was there ever a possibility of you boxing under safety car because it came out at a sudden opportunity that you got a thing on your feet? So did you went with your guns, or did you just realise that staying out was the way to go?
I think the example with Cassisi shows that pitting on the safety car was the wrong decision.
Yes.
I think it comes out lap 18, 19, something like that.
Yep.
And it was too late to get an advantage with the full wet, and so hard to overtake even with fresh wet tires. Yeah, I think the zero stopper was the strategy.
Yes, I think the first time we've ever seen in PSGL, what I've commentated anyway, with some drivers, probably more than one driver actually sticking to the end. I have seen one driver in Japan in another league do that, but I never seen more than one. So that is a first in PSGL history. Now you're consistently going to be high up in the championship, heading to Zandvoort next week. What are your chances there? Do you think you could challenge the main championship protagonists like Kazizel and Valters maybe, or are you just going to hope for some points? I'm sure you're going to get a podium again, right?
Let's wait and see. It's a good start to the season compared to the other two F2 seasons. I hope I can be consistent and make some good points, and maybe Wouters have to work again on Mondays.
I think that was the main reason why he missed last week, didn't he? Was he had to work? So
That's right.
yes. Owen, do you have any questions for Fabu?
Yeah, just wanted to ask then about how you think racing is then this year in the rain, because we've often praised the ERS for being accessible enough to have good racing in the dry. Do you think maybe you have a bit too much ERS at your deployment this year, because it felt like everyone had enough where no one could fight?
Yeah, I think it's because of the conditions in this race, and we were so slow in sector 2 and sector 3 sometimes. We lifted throttle so much in the fast corners. I think in the wet, yeah, we have too much ERS, but for dry conditions, it's perfectly balanced.
Okay, that's all I've got. Well done on your result. Good consistency as well with the 2 podiums in a row. Hopefully you keep it up for next week.
Yeah, the first time back-to-back podium.
Yes, because the last few seasons didn't go off to a good start, and maybe this could be the sign for things to come for you. Maybe F1 next season if you could keep it up.
Maybe, we will see.
Yeah, it will be deserved if you keep that consistency. And I think we have no one else in the interview booth, unfortunately. They do not want to talk to us. It's not mandatory to do interviews, but for people that do come, it's just nice to talk to. So that is it then for F2. Another good race. Not much overtakes. For the ones that did make overtakes, they did a stellar job and keeping it relatively clean. I think the main issues were just people spinning off by themselves. I think we had no major incidents. I think the stewards are going to be pretty quiet, but saying that, there probably will be some stewards reports anyway. So yeah, once again, we head to Zandvoort next week. Make sure you tune into F1 happening right now as they're approaching actually the start of the race. They probably finished qualifying by now. Let's hope they're not raining there. And then we've got the PC tiers on Wednesday with F2 and F3, and then Thursday PC F1, and then we've got Sunday with the lower assist tiers, and then Monday we got us again at 7 o'clock. So Owen, thank you for joining me once again. It's been a pleasure. Looking forward to Zandvoort next week.
Absolutely, it's going to be a cracking race, just like last season. Hopefully we get those changeable conditions again, because they create absolute drama there.
Definitely. So we will see you all same time next week, 7 p.m. UK time, for the Dutch Grand Prix. Let's hope it's a great one, like the real life one. Have a good evening, everybody, and goodbye.